And Melissa, we have our next guest ready. Would you please introduce her?
Yes, we're talking with Dr. Carole Lieberman. She's an MB, MPH, is a board-certified Beverly Hills psychiatrist and an award-winning and best-selling author. She was trained at NYU Bellevue and at Anna Freud's London Clinic. She served on the clinical faculty of UCLA's Neuropsychiatric Institute for years. Well, that's a mouthful. I tell you what, this is a very well-credentialed woman here. When Dr. Carole isn't seeing patients or testifying at trials as a forensic psychiatrist, expert witness, she's working as a 3-time Emmy-honored TV personality who's appeared on Oprah, The Today Show, Good Morning America, CNN, Fox News, HLN, ET, ABC, CBS, NBC, and many more. Additionally, Dr. Lieberman hosts 2 radio shows and podcasts and travels the world speaking about her books, especially her latest book for children and their parents and teachers, Lions and Tigers and Terrorists, Oh My. How to Protect Your Child in a Time of Terror. Dr. Lieberman, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show.
Thank you. It's great to be back with you.
And one thing they left off, I know that you were on the Council for Boys and Men. I serve on there with you. And so your expertise is everywhere. This is just a very short bio. So it's good to have you here. And let's talk about this debate last night. I'm assuming you watched it, as it seems everyone watched it.
Absolutely.
And tell me what you thought of the debate, just in general.
I was actually concentrating particularly on Joe Biden and signs of senility. I had expected more signs than what he showed, although, in thinking about it more since last night, there are, and looking at some of the transcripts, there were actually more signs, but they were subtle signs. So, for example, one thing was that he never really did complete a sentence. He would start something. I mean, there was one thing, for example, when he was being asked about the Supreme Court, and he didn't, whether he was going to add seats to it. And he started off, and he didn't really, he kind of got lost along the way. And then he started saying, so the American people should vote. They should, and he went into this whole thing about how everybody should vote, which was not really relevant to the question, and certainly not an answer. There were other things, other symptoms, like when, he called, one of the signs is when you get easily irritated and you speak out in an unrestrained kind of way. And so when we remember, I'm sure you remember, he called President Trump a clown. He was telling him to shut up, shut your yap. Now, not to say that President Trump wasn't aggressive and so on, and yes, he did interrupt a lot, but speaking in those kinds of words shows a lack of being in control of yourself. Like if asked afterwards, he would have known, no, maybe I should have used different words, that kind of thing. So what I have gotten from this is how there has to be some explanation. I mean, I haven't examined him personally, but I have watched him over lots of interviews and so on. And there has to be, as a psychiatrist, there has to be a reason why a person shows more signs of dementia when they are in their basement and calm and quiet and on Zoom, or even at a campaign stop, but where there isn't any stress, you're the big speaker, you're the big cheese, much less pressure than in the debates last night. So for him to have been able to cover up his normal, like when he forgot the words to the Pledge of Allegiance, or lots of other examples, for him to be able to cover that up, there has to be some kind of explanation. Now, I don't have the inside scoop. I can't give you the exact answer, but what it makes me think of is perhaps he was taking some kind of medication like Adderall or, an amphetamine or some other performance enhancer. Or, did you see that he was wearing a wire I didn't realize that last night when I was watching it on television, but actually in one of my interviews this morning with Mancow, he mentioned something about The Wire, and then I looked it up on the internet, and sure enough, there's video that where you can see if you do a close-up, you can see that he was wearing a wire. Now, was that actually giving him answers? Was it connected to something technologically that helped feed him the answers? It's certainly possible. There's something different. Something doesn't add up.
I'll mute myself. I agree. Something didn't add up, because I think a lot of us have seen the videos when he was in his basement or the campaign events, and sometimes he doesn't even seem lucid. He doesn't even know where he is sometimes, it seems. And then last night, he seemed to be a lot sharper, I think, than what most people anticipated, definitely what I anticipated. So are there certain, psychological drugs that he could take, maybe, that would make him that sharp? And, you said some, I don't know, amphetamines or something. I know, ADHD medicine. Is there something that would help keep him that sharp?
Well, it's possible that like Adderall would do that. Maybe he had a lot of what are those drinks, those power drinks. I don't know. I mean, there could be a number of explanations. Certainly he had something IV. I don't know the answer, but I do think it's important for people to realize that this is not normal, and that and certainly before the next debate, this is really the key. That, I know President Trump was asking for them each to take blood tests, and he was asked, he or his campaign was asking for there to be a search of each of them to make sure they didn't have any earbuds or things like that. I think those things, of course, Biden's campaign said no, but I think those kinds of things have to happen to give the American people the truth.
What about their body language? I know there was times when Biden seemed to be more aggressive in his body language, point over at President Trump. There were times that President Trump would step back from the podium. What did you gather from their body language in terms of credibility, or just I guess in terms of credibility too?
Well, President Trump came in looking like a bull in a china shop, which is certainly how one can, describe him in general, and not just in the debate. But and he did continue a very aggressive kind of stance all the way through. That was how really he was angry. He did seem angry. And I think a lot of that could be summed up in what he was saying to Joe Biden about how I did more in 47 months than you did in 47 years. And I think Trump is understandably angry that he has worked his tail off all this time, and he has gotten nothing but aggravation, but impeachment and lies and all kinds of things. And Joe Biden encapsulated that. Like, Joe Biden was basically he was somebody who had not done very much for 47 years, and yet he was now on the stage vying for the same position. So I think that got him angry. I wish he hadn't interrupted as much, because if Trump hadn't, then I think we might have seen Biden's senility more, his dementia more, if people could realize that his sentences were going nowhere. And Biden was interesting. He came in and he had a totally different attitude. He was smiling. He wanted to look like your friendly grandpa, except not be to think that he doesn't have his brains, has failings like your grandpa, but the really sweet old guy. And he had his hands up, like a coach kind of, and smiling, and, like he wanted to be the friend to everybody. But then he got much more, his body language was much more compact as the night went on. I think he was like trying to control himself, trying to literally hold it all together.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we're going to have to go to a break. We're coming to you from the Conservative Commandos Radio Network studios and around the world on the internet with TalkStream Live, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, Net Talk America, and AM/FM 24/7. And we'll be right back.